Have you ever felt the stinging emotion of shame reverberating throughout your body? For those of us who have experienced this very deep emotion, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, today we're going to be talking about how to move from shame, from being ashamed um, of yourself, even from what you've encountered, to one of self love, one of appreciation, one of being gentle with yourself. And so that is the purpose of this video. If you are new here, thank you for joining. My name is Marissa Price. I am a healing practitioner helping sensitive, introverted Black women reclaim our power, heal from past trauma, process what we've experienced, and really reclaim our sacred gifts. So if you're here joining live, welcome. If you're watching on the replay, please subscribe to my channel for content like this in the future. Please comment below if anything resonates, and please like it so that the algorithm shares it with other Black women who are on a similar healing journey. And yes, I have been experiencing issues with StreamYard, the platform today. So thank you for your patience if you joined earlier. This is day 4 of a 5-day series for Black women, sensitive, introverted Black women, coming back into our power, recognizing the issues that we may have experienced throughout our lives, and really settling into the fact that we are so gifted, we are chosen to be able to feel so deeply. And it's only being in a society, right, that really maligns emotion, feeling, that tells us that something is wrong with us and causes us to develop all these feelings of self-doubt, insecurity, shame, which we'll be talking about today. And really being able to recognize that can allow you to separate yourself and guard yourself from what you experience day to day in such an unfeeling society as we see present day just on full display. So yes, welcome to everyone who is joining. And you're so welcome. Thank you to those of you who joined at the original time. We are here now. So good to see you. Thank you so much, Zane and Debbie. Yes. Hello again. Yes, from Sacramento. Drell's, oh, I love that name. Drell's Healing Garden Journey. Hello, Marissa and chat. Great to see you all. Yes. So glad you're here. Thank you for joining. Atia, yes. Hi, everyone. So happy I caught this live. Yes, we're so glad you're here. And please subscribe to Atia's channel as well, Uplift and Align Wellness. Yes. But yes, let's get into it. So let me get to my notes. Yes, so if you have experienced shame, which is a very deep emotion, right? And we'll get into the definition of shame. Let me pull up my banners here. Just to go over that because that may be helpful, right? But again, this is a healing series that is specifically for sensitive, introverted Black women. We're often targeted so often in toxic environments by people who are not ready to express their own emotions to themselves. And so they kind of, go after us so often. And it's really getting into communities, into spaces where we're able to validate ourselves and our emotions and really guard, because we really have to safeguard our gifts in this cruel world that we're in, right? Impacted by things like colonization and enslavement, which I've talked about this week. But really guarding those gifts is so important. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me for this series this week. This has been healing for me. I very much am a person who experiences messages, right? I receive messages, and for them to be able to flow through me as I'm talking this out, right, has been healing for me. So I want to thank you for joining me this week already. We have one more day coming up tomorrow. And then we have a healing circle, which I'll be talking more about. But if you'd like to register for the healing circle, let me just put it up right now. No need to wait. Register, yes, for a safe place to feel, a healing circle for sensitive Black women, happening this Sunday, June 15th, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. If you are looking for a safe place to feel, to emote, you do not have to be on camera. You do not even have to participate. You can type in the chat. Is this introvert friendly? Because I know some events, there's pressure to speak, and absolutely not. As an introvert, I learn so often by listening to other people, journaling myself, reflecting myself. So if that's the case for you, please join us this Sunday, again, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And it is pay what you can because I did not want cost to be a barrier for this event. So that is this Sunday. Looking forward to it. I already have people registered, which I'm really excited about. But yes, right? So let's talk about shame. So shame can keep us from our power, can keep us from our softness, and from our ability to love ourselves fully, right? And a lot of the times, especially as sensitive, introverted people, we can carry this silently. So this video is really talking about how to recognize it, how to release it, and then how to return to the truth of who you are outside of what shame is telling you. Because I know for me, it can feel like a constant reel in your mind of shameful thoughts, right? And being able to unpack the roots of those, because it's often someone else's voice that we've internalized. And then separating that voice from your own can be a really powerful way to heal and to reclaim, what do I actually think? What do I actually feel? What grace can I actually give myself that maybe wasn't afforded to me by other people? But now I'm giving that to myself. And I have a video coming out on Sunday as well that will be speaking more about this. Okay. So what is shame? So shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress. And I thought I had the definition. Let me see if okay. A painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Actually, let me just add it right now. We're working on the fly today. There we go. Yes. Shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. So that is the definition of shame, just to start off the conversation. And we'll get into like shame versus guilt right now too, because shame is, you feel like something is wrong with you, right? You might have made a mistake, and so you turn the blame inward on yourself, versus guilt may be feeling bad about something that occurred, right? A mistake you may have made. Shame is deeper. And I do want to quote someone who has talked a lot about this, which I do have, and we'll also get into the limitations of what she shared. But I do think her teachings provide at least an initial understanding of the difference between shame and guilt. So Brene Brown says that shame focuses on self, guilt on behavior, right? So shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. So those can be helpful. That can be a helpful distinction. Yes. Oh, hello. Welcome, welcome. Taija, yes. Hi, Marissa. I love the video prompts you have chosen to do this week. Thank you, especially with the Trust in Yourself video. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. It has deeply resonated with me. I appreciate this. Thank you so much. Your work is powerful and appreciated by me. I appreciate that, seriously. And I haven't had time to respond to everyone's comments that you all have left, because I've seen the comments come through on the video. So I'm going to take time to go back and read those thoroughly and respond, because I do appreciate that. So thank you so much for sharing this with me. That I'm very appreciative of that. Yeah, so knowing that distinction, right, between shame and guilt, and why it can be such a deep emotion that a lot of us experience, because we're turning it inwards on ourselves, right? So no longer is it about just the situation, the environment that you were in, the mistake you may have made. Now it's about you as a person, as a being, right? Now you think that you are bad. Not just what you did, right? Because we all make mistakes. That's part of being human. The human experience is making mistakes, is learning along the way. But when you start to turn it inwards on yourself and start to pick yourself apart from the inside, that is shame. You're telling yourself you're bad, right? And you may have internalized this from someone who told you this. Their voice could be circulating inside. And so even recognizing that, that you have the power to turn that off, to mute that, and it doesn't have to keep replaying. You have the power to stop it. Can be powerful too. So yes. And so one of the reasons why it's important to recognize that there are limitations to what Brene Brown has shared with us around shame versus guilt. Black women navigate shame and vulnerability differently, right? Due to intersecting systems of oppression, racism, sexism, classism, many more. And for many, vulnerability, right, in things like the workplace, is not seen as courageous. I've talked about this a lot. It's seen as people want to try to take us out, right? When we speak up, when we're vulnerable, when we express courageous thoughts. And so that's important to recognize too, the distinction why we can't just necessarily take on all the teachings that Brene Brown has shared around shame versus guilt, because we have a very unique experience as Black women, right? So it can be dangerous or costly for us to express vulnerability, something I'll be talking more about too. And so let's get into why shame is used to target Black women. So shame is a tool. It is a tool often of oppression. And especially as Black women, it has been weaponized against us. Because shame keeps us quiet, even when we know we're right. And as introverts, a lot of us are on the quieter side, right? But we have a deep knowing often of right versus wrong. And so just because we're not speaking it out loud doesn't mean that we're not recognizing what's happening, right? It can also keep us small, even when we feel like we've outgrown the box that society has tried to place us in. It can make us feel like we have to constantly prove ourselves, even when we already belong in a space, right? So overexhausting ourselves, try to prove our worth, right? We have been shamed as Black women for our emotions, the angry Black woman stereotype, right? The way that we look so often, being in corporate settings, our hair, the way we present, we have to talk about colorism, texturism, featureism. Our bodies, right? The ways that our bodies are shaped, being labeled as too much. Our brilliance being seen as being intimidating, right? Other things that other people are praised for. Again, going back to Brene Brown, like the courage that she talks about. We are not often praised for exhibiting that. We are maligned. There's a target placed on our backs when we do that. And so that has to be said. Right? So when society could not control us throughout history, it taught us to control ourselves through shame. So when society could not control us, our brilliance, our understanding of the world, our gifts, it taught us to control ourselves through shame, because shame does a really great job, I guess, of making us silence ourselves. Right? So just thinking about that, maybe hopefully a light bulb. And yes, I feel like I need to take a breath here. So I'm just going to take a breath here, inhaling, pausing, and then exhaling. I'll take another one, inhaling here, pausing, and exhaling. A great self-regulation tool is breath. So if you ever feel yourself kind of going down the anxious route, stopping and breathing is a free, simple, easy way to reset your nervous system to come back into your body. So just a helpful tip. How shame can show up in daily life, right? Being told we're too sensitive, a video topic that I did this week. Being told that we should have known better. When again, the whole purpose of life is to gain information, is to make mistakes, is to learn along the way. Why else would we be here if we already had all the information that we could ever need before we even started this experience? So this is a process of learning, unlearning, right? Integrating information that you take in, changing, adapting. That is life. But when you're told you should have known better, right? You should have been perfect, which does not exist. That can create feelings of shame. Being told that you're behind, being told that you're not enough. And then we start to believe that things like our rest and our pleasure, something I've talked about before, must be earned. But really sitting with the truth that shame is not your voice, right? Shame is not your voice. It is a voice that you have likely internalized from someone else who was overly harsh on you. It's the voice of survival, learned in oppressive systems that were not built for your thriving, that constantly try to push you out, right? And make your life harder. And healing really begins with this truth. You are not shameful. You are not shameful. But you may have been shamed by someone else. You may have been shamed by a person, an environment, right? As I talked about before, a school, a job. But it's realizing that it's not your job to carry that anymore. And that you have the power to literally release that from your life, right? Once you have that initial awareness that you are carrying it, someone else's voice that you may have internalized, knowing that you also have the power to release it. And you do not have to carry shame anymore. So how do we start to reclaim our power, right? Self-love can be a really great way to break free from the chains of shame and also reclaim our self-worth. So it can start small. It can be gentle. This is your sacred returning to yourself before you were shamed by someone else, by an external party, right? And recognizing again that you are not shameful. You are sacred. So it can look like speaking to yourself with tenderness, giving yourself the gentleness that you've always needed. A lot of us as sensitive, introverted types, we come to the world this way, right? Of needing extra care, of needing gentle treatment. And sometimes we don't receive that in our family systems. And so how can you now be that safe place for yourself? Now that you recognize that you need these things to truly thrive. It can look like letting yourself rest without guilt. Looking in the mirror and saying, I'm still worthy. Still worthy. Always been worthy. There is absolutely nothing on earth that could ever change your worth. Nothing. Naming the way people before us have survived when there was no option, right? When survival mode was the only option. And now many of us are choosing to live, right? Healing our lineages instead of just surviving. Now that we have the option to choose something else, opting out of everything they told us that we just had to accept, right? Of being in constant survival mode, of questioning our brilliance, of trying to contort ourselves to fit into systems, environments, places that were never created for us. A lot of us are on the journey to reject that limited narrative that has only been given to a select few of us, because there are people out here who are just given the message constantly that who you are is enough. Right? And so if it's just given to a select few of us, that means that oppression is at play. Oppression works to keep us small, keep us doubting ourselves, keep us silencing our voices, right? While other people thrive and receive the message that they're here to do absolutely anything their heart desires, right? And of course, they will be successful. And then it's questioning, well, why were we given different messaging? Who does that serve? Who does that benefit? And who does that harm? Really asking those questions. Debbie says, yes, unfortunately, some shame begins at home. My grandmother once told me you want too much. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah, that's a really important point. A lot of our um, earliest experiences with shame start at home. They do. And so I appreciate you sharing this. I know that a lot of people can resonate with this. Yeah, things that we're told from people who, in theory, are supposed to uplift us, supposed to encourage, love on us, right? Oppressive systems have really done a number on our families, on our communities. When we think about what has occurred throughout centuries and the impacts that that has had, um, as we talked about this week, on not being able to even accept that people have emotions, that you have emotions, right? We're taught to dehumanize ourselves in that sense. And so it runs very deep. And to recognize that I'm healing from something that started like my earliest memory, maybe 3, 4 years old, of somebody telling me this. And so it will be a process of healing, of releasing, of being in communities like this one where you are able to gently heal. And I'll say it again, Black women don't need more tough love. That messaging is rooted in misogynoir. It is dehumanizing because, again, not everyone receives that message, right? That they need more tough love. And so why do we need more tough love? Why do we need people to speak to us harshly to get a message? It's dehumanizing. I love this. Thank you for sharing this. Affirmations and meditation has helped me on my healing journey. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, affirmations. And I have a book called Cocoon that I wrote during my journey of healing from a toxic job, which is linked in the description section. That has been so helpful for me to affirm to myself through books, through words, through poems, through affirmation videos. Alicia Renee has so many amazing affirmation videos on her channel that I just played, right, in this process of healing and reclaiming myself from whatever that environment was. And so, what are you intaking, right? What messages are you taking in that are helping you heal and get to where you want to be, or are they derailing your journey? That can be an important question to sit with too. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. So yes, the message is you don't have to wait, right, to love yourself. You can start now. Literally in this moment, you can start now. You can choose to love yourself, despite all of the messages that you may have received throughout your life that have told you that you're not valuable, right, that something is wrong with you, that have tried to bully you and shame you into silence. You can choose to let those messages go, to release them, because shame is not your voice. Know that you are already worthy of your own softness, of your own gentleness, of your own power. You can provide yourself with the things that you've always needed as you reflect back on your childhood experiences. What were the things you needed that you did not receive? And how can you now bring that into your life now that you're aware of it? Bring it into your life. It's not too late, because we're the same person that we were at that age. I think the society does a really, I don't think the word is great, horrific job of separating ourselves from our childhood selves, as if we're this new person once we turn this arbitrary age of 18 and we don't have any of our memories. We don't have any of our experiences. We're just supposed to be a blank slate. That's not how it works, right? Because the majority of our brain development occurs before the age of 9. So if that's the case, those experiences that you had before the age of 9 are really shaping your experience in adulthood. And that also gives you the information and data right? That you can now provide yourself as an adult with the things that you always needed as a child. It's not too late. Okay. Thank you for this. Yeah, it's not too late. It is not. So I want to leave you with, you're not too late. You're not too much. You are not broken. You are not shameful. You are beloved. You are sacred, right? And you are so powerful, especially as introverted folks, because we keep a lot of our realizations to ourselves, because that's just how we process information. Again, there's nothing wrong with us. That's just how we process information. It's important to recognize, right, that even if you're not saying it out loud, that you're still on a healing journey, that you're still on a process of recognizing what happened, of putting the pieces back together, even if it's just to yourself, right? It doesn't have to be out loud. It doesn't have to be showy. It can be to yourself, and that can be enough. Again, knowing that you can be gentle with yourself. Oh, thank you so much. Good to see you here, Raw Homemade. Thank you for the hearts. And going back to what we talked about at the beginning, shame is often used to target Black women specifically. Within intersectional systems of oppression, right? Shaping how we view ourselves, our emotions, how we look, our bodies, our brilliance, our intelligence. It kind of warps these things, right? So when I think about, and I did a video on my Substack page about being a gifted Black girl, our intelligence is now viewed as threatening in so many environments. And so, what is a very, very positive attribute of you being able to put pieces together, to identify patterns, to understand the world, has been flipped upside down. And now it's being labeled as you're threatening because you're intelligent. And the society does this over and over again with Black women in particular. Right? Again, labeling us as angry when we have valid emotional responses to what we're experiencing, labeling us as unprofessional when we speak up about being harmed in the workplace, when we protect ourselves because we don't want to interact, because we've seen what happens before, that label gets attached to us. For having boundaries, which I'll be talking about tomorrow for tomorrow's topic. And so if you can identify how this is at work, how shame is used as a tactic of control, specifically for Black women, especially for sensitive, introverted Black women, because we feel things very deeply. And shame is a deep emotion. You can stop it in its tracks, right? Before it gets through something I've mentioned, like your filter that you're able to create. And boundaries can really help you do this. What gets through your filter is something you decide. Right? People can throw everything that they want. You don't have control over other people, but you have control over what gets through your filter. And that can be important to recognize too. Thank you for joining. Yes. Valsina, Candy Stout. Yes. Our intelligence is used as a threat. This is so true. It's yes. Yep. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Substack page, because I have a video on being a gifted Black girl and my experiences with mostly white women teachers throughout my life being viewing me as a threat because of that, right? And the level of, again, oppression at play when we do exhibit this level of intelligence, this level of understanding, that is warped as a threat, right? And just recognizing that for yourself and separating it from how other people view you, right? Knowing that you do not have to view yourself through other people's lenses who view something so amazing as your intelligence, as your brilliance, as something to be threatened by. That's not your issue. Something that you can really safeguard, right? Are all these sacred gifts that you have that they could never come close to. So, yeah. It has been a healing journey for me, just recognizing how shame has been used as a tactic of control. And body shame is something I'll be speaking more about and writing more about, reflecting on my experiences, right? How body shame in particular is used to keep us in place as Black women, um, which is a huge topic. So, yes, be on the lookout for that. But yes, I appreciate you being here. I do want to mention, if you are interested in one-on-one support, I am offering that. I have a few openings for accepting new clients this summer. So please use this link to schedule an intro session with me, also in the description section as well. I would love to work with you if you are a sensitive, introverted Black woman on a healing journey, reclaiming your power, right? Recognizing that what happened to you was not your fault, that you do not have to carry shame, that shame was never your voice. And you can come back into who you are authentically. It's never too late. I would love to work with you one-on-one. So please book an intro session with me here if you're interested in that. We also have a healing circle coming up Sunday, June 15th. Let me 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pay what you can. So cost is eliminated as a barrier if you like to attend. And this will just be a safe space for us to emote during what is a very challenging time. That's uncertainty left and right, harm just being everywhere at this point. It's a lot, right? And something we'll be talking about tomorrow, how to establish personal boundaries, to know that you don't have to take everything in. As people who feel very deeply, right, chances are we're going to feel what's happening, but that doesn't mean that we have to let it pass through the filter to really affect us, right? And so recognizing that, knowing that you have the ability to set limits on what you intake to preserve yourself, right? So self-preservation is key. So yes, please join us this Sunday, June 15th, for a safe place to feel, a healing circle for sensitive Black women. And the link to register is scrolling here on the screen, as well as in the description section. But I want to thank y'all so much for being here. Let me read the comments. Yes, I've experienced this throughout my work life and sometimes with family and fake friends. Yeah, that resonates. And I'll say, like, as you begin understanding the different places where this has shown up, where you've been shamed, and it's been used as a tool to chip away at your self-esteem, you'll see like the threads. You'll see the pattern that has been at play so often, which can be important, right? To identify the places, the people. If you can identify a pattern in those, you can steer away from them or protect yourself, guard yourself if you still have to re-enter those spaces. Yeah. Hey, thank you for joining. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here as always. But yes, y'all, I want to thank y'all for joining me on day 4 of the 5-day healing series for sensitive, introverted Black women, coming back into our power after experiencing trauma, after experiencing harm, self-doubt, all these things that try to silence and mute our voices. We're coming back into them, right? I don't know if anyone else can feel it, but it feels like a palpable energy shift. So many of us are on this journey of rejecting things that do not apply, that have tried to keep us small, and really coming back into our full power. And it's been something to witness, truly. So tomorrow I will be going live probably the same time as today, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, for the last day of the 5-day healing series. And we'll be talking about personal boundaries, how to establish them, why it can be difficult as a sensitive person, and how they are essential for your well-being. So I look forward to that conversation tomorrow. Again, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And thank you for joining. If you're watching the replay, please comment below if anything resonated so we can learn from each other in community. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye, y'all.